Welcome to Holistic Healing Association. I'm Erin Darcy. I'm certified in embodied processing and clinical hypnosis. Welcome to our mini-series to empower women to listen to our intuition and empower them to learn to become our authentic selves, to embrace our true selves, to become curious about our anger. Today, we're going to start to explore our anger and start to become curious. And before I do this, I would like to address woman, strong woman, empowered woman. And what does strength mean? There's strength that a woman can be very strong and she can go long distances. But looking deeper, inner strength. There are many different types of inner strength. There's being humble, patient, resilient, moral courage, integrity. 3 women personally in my life that I'm proud to call family are my Nana and my Papa in the 1950s. I had an aunt that was born with Down syndrome. And many babies with Down syndrome were being told to be put away into institutions. They were called retarded. They told my Nana and Papa this. And she said, heck no. She was a strong mother. She brought her home, and she was an equal, well-loved member of our family. At that time, many families put them away into institutions. Some families never visited, or the ones that were kept home would be locked away in the bedrooms when people would come to visit. This didn't happen with my Aunt Debbie. She was a well-loved member of our family. I had the privilege and the blessing for her to live with my family for over 9 years. She taught me so much. She loved everyone and saw good in everyone. My mother is one of the kindest people I know. She sees good in everyone. I see that as a strength. And then there's my sister, my oldest sister, Michelle, who's an aid worker. She's been an aid worker in Africa for over 20 years. An example for her inner strength. She's a very sensitive person, but has a very strong moral courage. She's a kick-butt woman, and I'm proud to call my sister. What happened was the old Sudan was trying to take over the new Sudan, and a war broke out. My sister already had a plane ticket home to come home for Christmas. I told my mom, she's not coming home. She's an aid worker, she's needed there. Sure enough, she stayed. They were having wars in front of the hospitals and in schools and shooting up planes. She stayed to help people to get out, to help as many people get out as possible. And then she left. She's now adopted a son that's growing into a strong, kind man. And she's fostering a daughter who my daughter just adores and looks up to. Today, on this mini-series, I want to encourage us to empower women and support each other. I have with me 2 somatic practitioners that I would like to share their perspectives on anger and inner strength. If you'd like to introduce yourselves.
Hi, my name is Eda. I started my somatic practice in Christmas of 2024, where I enrolled in embodied processing. And I got certified about 4 months ago, and now I'm a practitioner.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And would
I'm
you like to?
Melissa. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Melissa.
I'm Melissa. Um, my somatic, my own inner somatic practice started probably back in 2021 on my own journey. And I'm a Reiki master, and I'm in the process of being certified
Okay.
in somatic processing.
And can you tell us about yourself and a strong woman in your life?
Yeah, I would say my lineage, my family, the women in my family are strong women. And as you said, there are different um, ways that we can look at strength. One way I would have to acknowledge is just survival. That in itself is strength. I lost my sister 2 years ago. I found her, and unfortunately, she also was very strong, but she was stuck in survival. And I want to acknowledge myself as well, though, because the strength that it actually takes not to only survive, but to actually go into the wounding and be willing to face yourself. That I didn't even understand the level of strength that that would actually take.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Come on to the other side of that. So yeah, I would just want to honor the women, all women, actually, all women, all women.
All women.
Oh, well, I'll add my lineage is strong women because they've survived. However, what it showed up in my lifetime was being quite domineering. And I know that's trauma and that's a protective mechanism. Yeah, so their strength showed up in ways, and I think their suppressed anger, resentment, it showed in wanting to control everyone in their families.
Right. Thank you. And how does society view that women should not show anger impact women society as a whole?
I have seen when women are not allowed to express anger, that it being unacceptable by society, how it gets twisted into being controlling and sometimes manipulative in subtle ways. So that anger gets twisted if it's not expressed in a healthy way. And that's what I've experienced in my family. And underneath all of it, because I was sensitive, I could sense the repressed self expression, which is actually, I feel like anger is when we can't fully express ourselves and it builds up. And then it does sort of come out at toxic fumes if it's not allowed to be expressed in its entirety in a safe space.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'd have to agree that I feel, well, we first all only do what we know, but not. I guess this is going back. I'll go back, like even to our connection to nature, like what, like that we don't stop the weather. So like there's no stopping the storm. So when we don't get that opportunity to express our anger it has meaning. It's something that maybe a boundary that has been crossed, a violation, something like that. So when we're not even taught how to express it healthy, or not even being allowed where it's suppressed, yeah, it's going to compact. It's what we resist persists, and that's where then it comes out sideways, and then it's labeled as wrong, crazy, unstable, because we didn't give it a safe place to even be expressed to. Because if what we can't sit with within ourselves, no one can hold for ourselves either, for us either. Like, or sorry, I don't think I said that correctly, but what we can't sit with within ourselves, we cannot hold for another. So if we were never really taught, even as children, how to be upset, or if we're even allowed to be upset, then we're just being conditioned over and over and over again. And yeah, unfortunately, like, it's going to come out sideways, and it's going to be labeled something and not understood. And it is a detriment, because then we have mental health issues, we have physical issues, we have disease in the body, and we're not in balance because the flow of nature, weather, it's stopped, is how I look at it.
I think too, it's generation after generation, we're taught it's not allowed. It's pushed down, right? And it's really, it's teaching us how to process our anger so we can allow it, but processing it in healthy ways, pushing it out the right proper channels. So it doesn't get all boiled up and we have health problems due to it. And it would create healthier relationships. And what were to change for women collectively if anger was seen less as something dangerous and more as information?
I think that's the change that needs to happen. I think there are now, capitalism be blessed in all its wisdom. Now there are these smash rooms that people can go into and physically smash items. I think that's probably a start. It is very physical, and you do get to like work out some of, whatever's happening in the body that way. However, we've got still a long way to go in allowing ourselves to express that anger in different ways as well, not just physical, but being present with it, feeling it in the body, and transforming it into something that's going to be constructive. But that's still, a long way to come, I feel.
I think one way I always did it was through sports, is not knowing, but I would just go full out in sports. Go hard or go home was my theory, but
Or mosh
it's
pits. Like,
yes, but it's the
people
same thing.
do
It's fight injury, fight energy coming out.
unconsciously, yeah, we do work it out, but it's not a conscious like feeling of it and knowing what it is and how to work with it.
No, no. And my dad always said, if you want to hurt the other team, don't go like punch them or fight them. I never got in a fight. He said, go hurt them by the scoreboard. So go out there hard. So it's just teaching how to do it in healthy ways. And what's the difference between destructive rage and healthy anger?
Mm.
I'll jump in there because I'm sort of in the midst of this. I'm working through this. There is a Rumi quote. It says, "Don't raise your voice, raise your words." What he means by that is when you feel you're being pulled into that fight response, when somebody is disturbing your inner peace, they're pushing your buttons, they're intruding on your boundaries. And I felt this with people around me who sort of want me to provide free therapy because we're friends. And I feel it in me. And now instead of just being like, why are you bothering me? Like, which would have been me, like maybe a few years back, very reactive and blowing up those relationships. Now I just sort of take a step back and just allow them to complete their thoughts. And then I just say, oh, look, I've got something else to do now. I've got to go, fully knowing that I'm feeling that anger. It's in my body. However, I've got to raise my vibration and be elsewhere that's going to be more constructive of my time. So that's, I'm still feeling it, but I'm not using it as explode. I'm not allowing that to explode onto the other person. I'm holding it, I'm sitting with that anger, and it's signaling that it's time for me to move on to something else that's going to be little bit better for me and not drain my energy.
Okay. And it's even in those times saying, okay, I need time and go somewhere, go for a walk, go in your car and process it. Allow, because you don't want to keep it down. It's taking your time and that's for moms too. I have clients coming in and moms are saying, I'm getting angry at my kids. I don't want to. It's coming out. Walk away. Take that time. There's different techniques we're going to show you throughout the series, how to process the anger, right? How to allow it to come out without having to react to our loved ones.
Yeah, I can attest to anger. I had a lot of suppressed anger that ended up coming out sideways in one of my relationships very deeply when all the coping ways, overworking, all the old ways didn't work any longer, then it came out very sideways in my relationship. And I had always prided myself on being kind, and now understanding there was some people pleasing and stuff like that behind the scenes there too. But I really prided myself on how I treated people. So the fact that my whole internal world was going, because I didn't know how to sit with my anger. I didn't know because I was trying to keep it all down and
We're not
suppress.
taught.
So, right? We're not taught. So, and I watched my mother be very violently abused my whole life. So like so even seeing her and then her anger spilling onto me and the rest of the family, which now I very much can identify, like, holy man, how much she was trying to hold together while still trying to function. And, that I ended up unintentionally harming people that I very much loved. Because I didn't know how to sit with it, that it would come out in swearing and, maybe throwing something at times that I never intended on intimidating or making another person feel threatened, because I had been that woman, that little girl, that woman in domestic abuse, all that unfortunately that's the cost of not knowing how to be with yourself. And the thing is, it's not to shame myself either, right? Because I was not shown.
Yeah. Well, you'd taken so
Um,
much, like other people had intruded so much. You had to sort of
yeah,
push away. So that was
yeah,
just pushing away.
yeah. And then just inside, trying to articulate myself, not being able to know what my needs were underneath it all. But then now that, knowing how I can actually sit with my feelings now, and it can come up. I don't do this perfectly, or, I'm human, but to be able to actually give that space now and notice when something comes up in my body, and like being able to identify it instead of just be in a reactive. That's, I think, the difference is when we're reactive, like that's where it comes out, can come out sideways a lot of times. Not saying it's not justified, or, but it likely comes out sideways.
And I
Whereas,
have also noticed the thing is, like, if you do remain, you feel it, but you do your resourcing and you sort of
mhm,
sit with it, but it's still there, like you can feel the
yeah,
burn of it. It kind of feels like passion as well. So it's sort of protecting something you're passionate about, your own inner peace. And then if you
yeah,
do communicate that to the other person, but without raising your voice, and you're like, I'm feeling angry that I've already expressed myself and you keep pushing on this. It's making me angry. They will still get the point because
hmm,
they'll feel the passion and the anger behind the words, even if they are delivered calmly.
yes. And once we're able to even be able to articulate that within ourselves, like do that for self, once we get there, it takes practice, and be able to be like, I'm feeling angry because I'm not feeling heard,
Yeah.
you know, to really nail that, so that they're, oh, okay, then maybe that signals to them I may not be listening. There's a different way that everything shifts once we have that internal dialogue with ourselves,
Yeah.
that the relationships can shift. Like somebody has to go first sometimes, we don't like that. Like sometimes we always want the other person to go first, but
Yeah. I don't want to reveal my cards here.
right, that's
Yeah.
the
There
vulnerability
is
piece of
definitely
being
nerves
like,
with that. The vulnerability, it's hard.
yeah. Yeah, so I think to me that's the difference of like where it comes out maybe in a toxic way or unhealthy way opposed to a healthy way. I've been there.
And learning to listen to our bodies, because the more in tune we are, the more we're going to notice if it's a trigger or not. And the more
Mhm.
work we do, the more we're able to sit within triggers and become curious, because our triggers are messages. So instead of
Exactly.
running away from them or just listening to them, sitting with them, becoming curious, and asking them questions, asking them inquiry questions.
Yeah,
And
because
because
a
they're
lot of times,
messages
yeah, because a lot of times we will think it's the other person, but maybe it's just something inside us, right? And
from the
that's the
past.
beauty. Yes, exactly,
They're
and that's the
helping
beauty.
us see and discover what's inside.
Um, yeah.
And how can we create safe places for women to feel anger without shame?
Feel embodied processing does that. I have had clients who yelled at me, and I know it wasn't about me personally. We're sort of getting back in touch with something that happened earlier. I'm like, well, what would you have liked to have done? And I allowed for the yelling. And I think initially that's a good release. And then, of course, we'll progress with that to see if we can ground it a little bit more. But I think any way that it's expressed, even if it's toxic ways in safe spaces, I feel like that's a good start.
I think the way that that change happens is by being the change, like by becoming safer and safer within our bodies, that we understand ourselves more, that we now then understand the other person a lot more, that we don't take what we can see happening as ours or
And
as something that we might have instigated. You know what I mean? Or yeah.
interestingly, Melissa, other people's sideways expression of anger, the when we become more secure in ourselves, more grounded, more resourced, it doesn't impact. It doesn't get through anymore.
No, it's beautiful because I can hold space for someone's anger, and because now I understand what I needed in those moments when the people weren't able to hold that space for me, that I ended up like spiraling and like being like,
Mm.
okay, no one, like, and it just coming out completely sideways. So now that I reflect and I know what I need, that I just need a space to express without no one taking anything personal.
Yeah.
I just, this is like, and so, yeah, now that I recognize within myself now, when someone gets angry, it isn't a fight response, like a freeze response, like in the past, like I would have gone into maybe like, just gotta stay safe. Gotta just, now it's like, oh, I
I can
recognize myself
observe and
in you,
witness it. It's
and
like
I can
watching a
be,
storm pass.
and what a gift that can be for somebody to be
Yes.
just be held in that and not judged.
Yeah.
It's then that's what I feel like really brings that safety back.
And why are boundaries important? And to be able to say a strong no. How can we teach our daughters this at home?
Again, it's really important that we feel our bodies and our limitations, our emotional capacity every day, or at the beginning of the day versus at the end of the day, or different days when we're going through processes. It's not going to be the same. And we need to be able to convey that to other people so they know what they can expect realistically from us. I think a lot of women, because we think we have to take care of everyone, if anyone has something to give us, will we just say yes without thinking that, well, do we have the capacity to deliver on this? Maybe we don't, and maybe we shouldn't say yes. So it never comes up. The automatic response is yes, yes, I can help you, I can help you, I can
That's
help you, I
women
can
are
help you.
expected to do.
And then it just becomes way too much because we've never been taught to say look after ourselves and like know our capacity and communicate that.
And it's so important for young girls, especially in today's society, with so much media, so much pressure, so much going on. And there's so much peer pressure, so much. And so much kids can get caught up in that we're able to say a no, strong no. I'm even practicing that with my 4-year-old at home. Like I've got her to put out her hand. I'm like, feel into it, Say no. I've got her to do that with her dog even. Say that's a boundary. You can practice it with animals at home, your pets. If she says no to me sometimes, that's depending on what it is, but that's okay. Teaching her the word
Mhm.
boundary, teaching her the word no, and feeling it, saying, how does that feel in the body, right? And getting kids to learn to recognize their emotions and name them if they're little. And then as they grow, with peer pressure developing, especially in the teen years, that can be significant, and we can get in all types of trouble when we don't have boundaries, when we may be people pleasing, when we may be insecure or feeling the pressure. I felt peer pressure in high school. What to wear, always needing the designer clothing. I wear high heels. People know me at home. I'm the most basic person. I wouldn't be wearing high heels. Basic stuff, right? Harmless stuff. There's a lot more that we can be peer pressured to do. But instead of saying, okay, I want you to like me, that's say, heck no,
Mm.
I don't want to. Because I, like in high school, I'd be wearing high heels and we jumping over a fence to go to school. My high school is in my backyard. That was in my authentic self wearing high heels, right? He wasn't.
Mhm.
I was a girl who wanted to jump the fences and go over the school. That girl didn't normally doesn't wear high heels as they're jumping over the fence, but I was people pleasing at the same time.
Yeah, I would say my example that really, from my own exploration, is like, I don't remember being told that didn't have to hug anyone when I was younger.
You
Like,
weren't told.
no, I was never like, it was always encouraged that even if I didn't want to hug
Oh, you were
somebody,
encouraged. Yes.
yeah, go hug, say goodbye,
Yes.
go, and always that need, so that I didn't know how to learn the boundary of my no with my own body, and that I had a right to say no, which then
And that's
unfortunately
so important to
some
teach
other
little girls.
experiences. Yeah. And that we right from there, we're taught to not listen to what our intuition or what feels right for us and what honors ourselves in the moment. And it doesn't mean that we think the other person, wasn't worthy of a hug. It just, maybe it's just something in us in that moment wasn't feeling it, or it could be a very viable thing that our intuition is saying, yeah, that person doesn't feel safe right now. Who knows? But ultimately, I know when I go, I I've survived quite a few sexual assaults and abuse. That's like in understanding my own self and the no's or the lack of no or the freeze response or fawning, where that came from, maybe in my root. And I know that that was one of the things that I was led back to, where I never really had the right to say no. It was do as you're told.
I'm sorry to hear that. Yes, it is so important to teach little kids that, right? And also to notice what's happening. If they feel uncomfortable, right? That's one thing I'm trying to teach my daughter. Now she just turned 4, but if she starts to feel like a little bit funny, or if we're watching TV and she is scared or anything, I'm like, if something like that happens in real life, or a person makes you feel that way, notice, tell me, right? Um,
Mm.
just notice what's happening and just tell someone you trust. Run away, right? Um, but she's still very young to be able to teach her. I just asked her the other day, if someone asked you to go find a dog or have some candy, would you go with them? And she said yes. I'm like,
Yeah.
no. I'm like, no, no, no. The answer is no.
Right. But that's exactly it with even my nephews. So like, I can sense when I want that hug from them and they're not
Yes.
into it,
And
and I
just,
can even feel myself trying to encourage them, right? Like, and I catch myself and it's like, oh no, they said no.
Yeah.
yeah.
You know. So it's just interesting how we can think something in childhood could be so innocent, but give us a belief or program us with some
It happened for
condition.
many years, and it's just a little thing, but it can escalate, and that can be a small root, right? You're just planting a
Yeah,
seed. Instead, let's
yeah,
plant healthy seeds for our kids.
yeah.
Speaking of that, like when I was growing up, I'm from Turkey originally, so I lived in a very patriarchal household. Whatever dad said, and we had to please him and do as he said. And so my conditioning was always to earn the male gold star wherever I
Mm.
went. If there was like a male in position of authority, that was what needed to be done, despite what was happening around. He was right. And I carried that with me for a very long time. And now I'm noticing, even in this culture that I'm in, which is Australia, which is, you assume men and women are a lot more equal. But I'm still seeing even younger women going with the male authority figure despite what might be in their own best interests. And I can feel that now triggering me because, and that anger, it's behind it, it's like hurt that they feel like they have to, listen to a male authority figure when instead of themselves. So that's like a hurtful anger that I feel.
Mhm. Well, even in certain cultures, countries, religions, girls are being married very young. It's still happening today. Like, it's wild. It's 2026, but it's still happening. And that would be trauma on its own. Being a very young woman and being married to an older man. But it happens all the time. Um, so yeah, so my next question, and we kind of already touched on it. What are the long-term safety and relationships risks for a daughter who is taught to always suppress her anger and comply?
Mm.
And they turn over their authority to, other figures. And that makes for a very unsafe way to live. And they can't really access their well being that way. If they turn over, their inner guidance to someone else who is not in their body to know what's good for them. And this can happen in like the health, well-being settings as well. Like, you know, doctors who are not asking questions, but they're just prescribing. And women are like, oh, well, here's the older male who knows what he's doing. I'll just go with it. And they maybe end up doing things that are not good for their bodies.
And what are the most common secondary emotions like hurt, fear, or shame that mask themselves as anger in girls? And how do we unpack them? How can we start to process them? How can we start to process our emotions? If you have an example, you can show.
Mhm. I guess I would be probably willing to show because I did have something come up even just before this call. So,
Sure.
uh, okay, it's going to be very vulnerable. I'm going to show you how I access my anger and process it. Is that what
Okay.
we're doing? I just want to clarify. I'm already
And how
activated
what we
now. I
can
can
teach
see that.
young girls. Yes. How to process
How
it.
we can teach young girls. Oh, okay. That. Well, this is just how to sit with it, I guess, and how to be with it. Okay. I don't know if you want me to walk you step by step or just show.
Sure. Yep. If you want to walk us step by step.
Well, I notice that I have body sensations in my body. What I choose to do is close my eyes and take some deep breaths, just try to get out of my head and come into my body to feel it. So I identify where in my body I'm feeling the sensations. Right now I'm feeling it in my solar or my sacral, my womb area, my stomach, and in my heart, my throat as well. Feel it's wanting to constrict. And then I just give myself permission without a story attached that I'm going to look crazy or not going to be understood. I'm literally just going to give myself permission to sound, to move my body, to just give myself the permission to feel whatever is going to come so it can move and be honored and witnessed. And I keep taking breaths in as I'm expressing to allow air to be exchanged, because the breath is a tool to calm ourselves as well. So I don't get into a activated state where I'm lost in my trauma or my trigger. And as I'm coming out, as I allowed that expression, that sound to express, I notice calm coming back to my body. And I'll just take a few more grounding breaths. I am going to say right now, I'm noticing a little bit of judgment because I'm doing this in front of somebody. So it's going, just noticing the thought that popped in here and just giving myself permission to be human and know that my vulnerability could help someone else.
Thank you. And we're all human. And yes, so it's feeling into your body, noticing what's happening, and then allowing your body to move how it wants to move, to make the noises it wants to make. Just allowing and just noticing. And there may be resistance that comes up. And then even sitting with the resistance and becoming curious with the resistance. And if you sit with the resistance and just allow it, normally that result it will go away and you can feel into it. And just pick a safe place, right? There are many techniques out there, and we will be teaching them throughout the mini series on how to start to process our anger. But even for people that are at home who have a hard time coming in to touch with their anger, I'm one of them. I have definitely had times that I've repressed my anger by like holding your fists and just starting to slowly, and when you're making these movements, do it slow. Don't make fast movements. Go slow. So if you're punching there, go slow. Go very slow and try and be grounded and resourced before even moving into movements. But if you want to even hold your fists and grab them and notice how it feels, and I invite the viewers to do it at home. Hold on to your fist and just notice, grab tight and notice what's happening in your body. You can stomp your feet slowly and notice what's happening. Okay? And even if you want to pick a memory of something that's a small memory, a small trigger that maybe brings up a little bit of anger, and feel into it as you hold your fists, stomp your feet, and just simply notice what's happening in your body. Notice if you want to make any noises, if you want to say anything. Notice if any particular person comes to mind. I know when I was playing ringette, my teammates were, when I was going in hard, Like, I mean, at the times I was going in super hard, a growl would come out. And this was very organic. This was never on purpose. And my teammates were like, Erin, you're growling again. That's actually a somatic experiencing noise that they were have to do to help people process their anger. It's just, I was doing it. So I didn't even know why I was doing it, but it was coming out when I was going at somebody hard. I was like, um, but that was anger coming out. Did I know? No. I only learned that a while ago. Some somatic experiencing practitioners talking to me, and they were saying, "Well, actually, that's a technique we're taught."
Now,
But
Erin,
there's like,
before I duck out, in
yep,
that experience, what you just described, that actually shows how useful anger is as well. It is
yes,
fuel. So when we feel that energy, like a lot of teams, they tap into that anger, that warrior energy, that fight state before a game so that they can go with that energy. And it is useful in that sense too when we're, playing a team sport or where we need where we have more drive because it does give us that drive. So
it
it is
does.
quite useful.
It can be very useful to fight energy, depending on how you use it, right? If
It has
somebody's
to be used
breaking
in the
in,
right setting.
it
Yeah,
needs to be
in the
used in
right
the right
setting.
setting. If somebody's breaking into your home and you don't feel any anger or any protection,
You're going to be useless in that
you're going to be
situation.
useless. That's why all emotions are a gift and they're all there for a reason and a purpose. It's just learning, and their messages, just learning how to use them properly.
Well, thank
Mhm.
you for holding this space. I can
Thank
hear
you.
my kids. Thank you so
Okay.
much.
Thank you for your time. Is there a difference between rage that comes from trauma and rage that comes from finally waking up to our own needs, voice, and self-worth?
I think there is a slight like difference, but it could also feel very similar. Um, I think identifying with the rage of from our trauma being suppressed of where in that moment like we could not express to keep ourselves safe, like for instance a violent attack or something, or compounded multiple uh, uh, physical or emotional or mental attacks as well. But yeah, I think there's that honoring of like the emotions that never got fully expressed. There's that rage, but then the other side of the rage of waking up and realizing our needs. And I think there's a rage that comes with that of like just the whole disappointment in society that we were never taught any of this and never taught to how to identify our needs, like and how much suffering, how much um relational harm can be had over it all. So I feel like it could feel very similar, but at the same time, that's what I would identify with the part of waking up to our needs and all this information that we never had.
And
Um,
realizing maybe our needs were not met, and even starting
mhm.
to learn and doing inquiry questions. What are our needs? Because sometimes it can be difficult to even know what our needs are when we've been people pleasing or trying to help and always pushing our needs down, or as a child, never getting our needs met because we were neglected, and as an adult, entering into relationships and not knowing what our needs are and still just giving to the other person until we realize this is not a healthy dynamic. And then becoming frustrated and resentment building and building and building until we say no more. And that's when we can start to learn our no.
That too. Also, learning how to self meet our needs ourselves as well, because a lot of
Yes.
times, if from that childhood, we're always outsourcing. So if we're not even taught how to then eventually meet
How
those
can
needs
we
within
give it?
ourselves. We don't even know that we're capable of
Giving
meeting
it to
our own
ourselves.
needs. So yeah, and that's where I do find with the shadow work, like that mirror, like it's like, okay, that was the opportunity to come back to myself and learn how to meet that need within myself instead of. So the anger when in shadow work for myself was that reflection back at self. I was just really upset with myself because I didn't meet my need, or I didn't listen to my no, or
Hmm. And
as
when
well.
it
Like,
makes sense. Yep, I agree.
yeah, yeah.
How can women begin reconnecting with anger in healthy, embodied ways?
For me, I think my first step was how I related to my own emotions, my anger, because I too had the belief from society and from all my conditioning that I was unstable. I was crazy if I expressed this. I there must be something wrong with me. And so in that judgment of our own emotion, we are signaling to ourselves that we are not safe within our own selves. And so I think that was the very first step for me to realize that the more I judge myself, the more I put myself into a fight or flight response, which will never bring me to safety. So logically, the first step for me was that I needed to stop judging it and I needed to start honoring it.
Mhm.
And if there was no one else in my life that was validating, except for the people I paid, validating, like it was a very important step to start helping myself validate my own self and my own experiences that were true for me.
Okay, thank you.
And I think that dropping that judgment kind of starts to become, you start to feel a little safer within yourself, that if you're not going to be an enemy and treat yourself, you know, you start that process to begin to feel a little safer maybe without bringing on a whole bunch of resourcing already, like just that pure, I'm going to release judgment of myself.
Hmm. Hmm. I know with my daughter, like it's teaching her, like I said, she just turned 4, but it's if she's starting to feel angry, if your children are young, the first steps are helping them identify the emotions, naming
Mm-hmm.
them, and then with anger, stomping their feet, right?
Mm-hmm.
Grabbing a pillow, just holding the pillow, punching the pillow if you need to, right? Don't punch a kid. Go at the wall or go at the pillow, right? And just allow the anger to come out, but don't take it out on others, right?
Yes,
Um, is really important.
yes, it
And
is. I do want to, oh, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
Sorry. I just wanted to say after I had my nephews in my care this last year, and unfortunately they have gone through a lot of stuff so far in their short life, and I was met with their anger, and it was reactionary because obviously they were not taught how to be with that. So I was met with a whole new challenge, and that's where I didn't even get to teach them those steps yet. They were already in reaction. And that is exactly what I started to do with my nephews, with the little boys, is how do we do this safely where you're not hurting yourself? And that's exactly what I did. Go to the mattress. You're not going to harm the mattress. You're not going to harm yourself by hitting a mattress, or like ringing a pillow, or, you
Or a
know,
towel,
a
using a towel
towel.
and just
Yeah.
ringing it in, or a
Yes.
ball,
So like
squeezing the
that.
ball, right? Whatever
Yes.
works.
Yeah. Yes. Because I did find in his experience after his reactivity, and I didn't step in because he wasn't harming anything at that point. So I just allowed it to move. And then when he was done, he felt a lot of shame that he even reacted that way. So I just said, no, like this is okay. You're safe to express as long as we're not harming anyone right now. But yeah, there's obviously a lot more that can go into that in that teaching and how we bring that out into the world. But I just, not only with little girl, I know we're talking about women here, but even I'm noticing in the boys that they're just lost. They don't even know what to do with it as well.
Hmm. No, for sure.
Besides
Everyone is
attacking
impacted.
his
It's
brother,
not just
maybe
little girls.
sometimes, right? Yeah, no, going against his brother instead of realizing it's not that. So anyway,
Yes, and
just trying to teach healthier expression.
often when we feel anger, there's pain under it. Often. And historically, women who have expressed anger were often labeled hysterical, dynamic, difficult, emotional, unstable, or even dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
How do we think that history still impacts women today?
Well, I'm feeling like the shift is coming and is here. There's more people stepping into these spaces and doing the work that's needed. And but yeah, there's still an impact. There's still. I would like. I'm going. I don't know the statistics right now on it, but a majority of women out there that are still conditioned, still suppressing, still ending up with disease in their body because they don't know how to allow that to move, and we end up being in like our own little prison within a prison, like feeling like there's
It's
still a
even
lot of
in the
pain
book
in
of
the
No More.
world.
Sorry, go
Yeah.
ahead.
I just was saying there's just still a lot of pain in this world within people that are coming in diagnosis, which to me, my belief is all diagnosis is just unhealed trauma, mental
Hmm. And there's
diagnosis.
many people out there that have trauma and don't realize it, and they're reacting and it's having a huge impact on their life, and they don't really even realize it's trauma.
That's right. And then they're criticizing themselves, going into a shame spiral, suicidal. I actually was there, and I didn't even I didn't know how to pull myself out back then.
Mhm. Well, I think that's many
Yeah.
people. There's many of us
Oh,
like, and it's just, I didn't realize I had trauma. I remember entering in body processing, and um, many of us have trauma, but I was like, I don't have trauma. I'm here to help people. And people were like, yes, you
yeah.
do. And I was like, no, I don't. I have a lot more trauma than I realized. But until you start to do the work, you don't always know because there was
It's true.
I mean I just didn't know, right? I was like, I don't have trauma. And then there was probably some ego coming up too, and I'm like, I'm fine, I'm good. But no, and there's nothing wrong with having trauma. I think most people have some type of trauma. And then when you're honest with yourself, you can actually start to your healing journey, and it can be an up and down road, but
Hmm.
it's worth the journey, and you can learn a lot
Yeah.
about yourself along the way.
Yeah, from my experience, I wasn't that person. I knew I had a lot of trauma because I did have a child, unfortunately, an A score of 10.
Okay.
Um, so by my 20s, I was in therapy immediately.
Well, you know what?
Thank
That's good.
God.
You went for it right
Um,
away, because a lot of people
well,
don't.
right, because I just knew I was trying everything and I wasn't getting happy. So I'm like, why is this not like? Why is it? I'm doing everything I know how to do. But I had a friend who very much once I started really digging into this, there was she would be always be like, oh, well, I'm not like you though. I didn't go through what you did, and
Yeah.
so she really was very not aware that even though she was neglected or her emotions weren't validated or she was told she was, all this stuff in her childhood and she had to look perfect for the outside society because that's how her family was like, put yourself together, you know, it, she just thought like, no, I didn't have a life like you. I didn't have a childhood like you. So no, like, and she ended up having, a drinking problem
Mhm.
and just she didn't reflect to herself as someone who had trauma because like I didn't experience what you did, all the violence and the drugs and
Mhm.
all
And
that
that's what I
stuff.
was
So
personally thinking, to be honest. That's what I was
yeah,
thinking. Now,
yeah,
I had come from an abusive relationship, but I was thinking, well, I didn't grow up in an abusive home, or like, I have never experienced um,
yeah,
many different symptoms. And I was like, I don't have trauma. And then I had a number of people start to say, you got trauma. It's like I kept on saying, well, I don't have trauma. I'm here to help. And they were like, well, you got trauma, Erin. Um, and I kept on pushing back, but then I started going, well, why are people telling me this? Um, but then when you start to process and things more and more comes up, like I didn't even know I didn't feel good enough until
Mm-hmm.
I started doing more and more EP sessions. But out in the outside world, I kept on trying to prove myself, right? And it's not always conscious. Lots of times it's subconscious. And when
Absolutely.
you do EP sessions and body processing sessions, it's not just processing your emotions, it's working with the subconscious. And you become a lot more aware and you get to know yourself a lot more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I noticed from the victim story out there, like I never allowed myself to be the victim in my 20, like at all. I was like, okay, because I saw everyone, oh, you want to, like, and even my abusers, like, oh, you want to be victim. And then, you know, how they would judge, well, why don't women just leave, or all these things. You want to cry about it, but you won't want to leave. Like all these judgments on the victim, I heard that I never allowed myself to be the victim. I took responsibility for the abuse that I had. I just tried to strengthen myself and push through and be like, hey, no, you know, instead of letting me like feel for myself,
Feel it.
feel for the pain that I experienced. I just tried to toughen up and keep going, overworked till it all just catches up
Overwork. Keep
and
on
crush you.
constantly trying to do something to prove yourself.
Yeah.
Myself.
And,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think that's
So,
many, many people. And, people can go to work and work and work, and people go, wow, look at that. Look at that person. They're a go-getter. And then people can go for a bottle and people go, look at that person. But it comes from the same place, pain.
same place, same avoidance, same distraction.
Yeah. It's just avoidance until you actually sit down and feel the pain and start to
Yeah.
heal.
Yeah. And I couldn't even get to that pain without actually allowing myself to be a victim. And you can't bypass that stage, is what I find. You can't just toughen up.
You can't just push through it.
Now it eventually
You can
catches.
do it until you come to a breaking point, and then it's going to hit you hard.
And that's what I
And
experienced.
I think that's many of us. And what
Oh,
do you
absolutely.
and what do you think healthy anger actually looks like in a regulated nervous system?
I feel healthy anger looks like in a healthy way is being able to feel the sensations in your body, but remain still grounded and resourced to be able to still articulate what you are experiencing or how you're feeling, having access to that information at the same time. And that doesn't mean that you don't have a little extra energy, maybe a little more, you might have a strong voice, you know, instead of a yelling voice. It might just be a voice that's assertive instead of aggressive. You know, that can get mixed up too. I find even when I'm still feeling that I'm assertive and not aggressive, I'm still being labeled as aggressive.
Hmm. And it's
But
sometimes it's just women standing their ground.
yes, exactly. And that's again just coming back to self and knowing. No, this
And
is
checking in yourself. And why are
yeah,
you doing this? And
yeah, just
how are you feeling? What's happening in your body? And what is your motivation behind doing it? And that will give you the answer right now or right then.
yeah.
Because look at the purpose, look at the reason, notice what's happening in your body, and pause.
Yes, exactly. If it's an automatic reaction, more than likely that's coming from a wound. It more than likely if you're not able to be in some kind of a calmer pace of articulating within myself, though, I find like if it's like an automatic, there's probably a little extra charge in my body somewhere if I'm not able to slow down and be like, oh, I'm noticing I'm upset by that comment. You know, if it's an automatic response, I feel like that there might be a little extra charge in that. That, but if you're able to slow down and articulate yourself and still have access to understanding yourself at the same time, I feel like that's a good representation of healthy
Mhm. I agree. What does it mean to be authentically human?
anger. Hmm. Well, I feel like I'm very much embracing this in my life right now. I feel like being authentic is also a very big thing in knowing yourself and having that time with yourself to understand as much as we can. Like we're always working on that. We always will have a subconscious. um, oh my goodness! I just lost my track there. Can you repeat the question one more time
Yes,
for me? My brain went on to a different path.
What does it mean to be authentically human?
Yeah, there you go. I was just authentic. I was like, oh, here I am. I'm not gonna fake that I remembered that question. Just being very like comfortable in your skin, being willing to be seen in your vulnerability, being willing to be judged because at least you have a knowing within yourself and you have this compassion and love for yourself that you know you got you even if somebody doesn't understand you. And being willing like even to, you know, be in your reaction sometimes and know that that's just like unfortunately that's part of being human in this world, especially nowadays, right? Like the condition, like there's so much trauma that there is a lot of reactions happening in this world, unconscious happenings
For sure. And like so much
that
social media pressure constantly at us, right? Having the perfect body, wearing all the
yeah
makeup, always needing to wear whatever social media is calling for us to do, right? Um, Having the big house,
yeah
having the big car, always needing to get better, get bigger, get better, get bigger. What if we just
yeah
didn't? What would happen? What would be the worst thing if we all just slowed down, spent more
mm,
time with our family, more time with our loved ones, spent more time just with us and doing our passions and our love? How would that impact us? How would that impact our health? If we
mm,
just lived a little bit more simpler, but had more time. And at the end of our lives, when we're on our deathbed, are we going to regret spending more time doing things we loved and with our loved ones and maybe making a little bit less money? So maybe we couldn't afford the big car, the big house, the fancy clothing, but we had the genuine time because time is much more valuable than money will ever be. And when we can slow down, that's when we get to know who we really are. Because when we're going, we can lose ourselves.
yeah. It's
And
just being
that's, sorry,
instead of just being
instead of just
ourselves. We're
being.
not having to do to accomplish to feel worthy of something that just being.
And ask yourself, even why are we doing all this? Start to ask yourself inquiry questions at home. And even journaling, and then resourcing and grounding exercises. And going back to the journaling and just looking deeper internally and inviting everyone to be asking yourself, what internal strengths do I have? What does it mean to be a strong woman? Who are the strong women in my life? Who are the authentic women in my life? How can a mother co-regulate when their child or teen, when her own stress levels are being triggered?
I don't know that I'm the person to answer this fully because I experienced miscarriages 4 losses.
I have too.
So yeah, so my initiation really into motherhood was when with my nephews, um, and I did come up to that, and I failed at times, not being able to co-regulate. Um,
No one's perfect. We always have our moments.
yeah, this is where the importance of doing your own inner work so that we are in touch and we can do our best. We won't do it perfectly. Like the repair, if we do mess up, I'm noticing is much more important than maybe getting it right off the first bat. But I would say that ultimately coming and doing our own nervous system work, our own processing, our own being able to catch that body sensation with us so that we don't go into it with them. I like, I guess, yeah, so that we're aware of what's happening to us so we can still maintain that connection with them. That's just kind of what is coming up for me. I don't know that I'm the best person for that question, just because I don't have children of my own, but my
Okay.
experience with them is
Okay.
that.
I would say leave into another room if you can.
Mhm.
As this series progresses, we're going to be showing you different ways how to release the anger. Try these exercises. Take the time you need. Come back. And don't just walk out of the room. Say, I'm starting to feel triggered. I'm going to take 10 minutes and I will be back. So instead of just leaving, communicate very clearly. I need to step out. I'm going to do my exercises, and you can show your children at home the same exercises and say, I will be back. That's really important to say instead of just leaving,
Yes.
and then come back. Every time, don't never ever not come back. If we come back every time and then sit down when you're both calm and talk. The problem would be there is if you don't say you're coming back or you don't come back, then that's damage. But if you can both do the exercises we're going to be teaching you, take that time, come back. Once the anger is processed, sit down and talk. There'll be a significant difference. And that's where the repair can start to happen. And that repair in relationships, in parenting, or any relationship is really important. But you need to have that time to process the anger. So even 10 minutes, whatever, come back. And if it's more than 10 minutes, don't shame yourself. That's human. We're human, right? It may easily take more than 10 minutes, but take that time and come back. Um, how can parents at home teach their young daughters about how to process anger? And what can we do when our children become angry? I think I already answered that, eh? Pretty much.
I think teaching them to identify it is a very big step. I think you had maybe mentioned that earlier. Identifying, at least teaching them how to identify their emotions as well is a very big step too. Okay?
Because it's common that when we come from homes that didn't teach us to name our emotions or even feel our emotions, we were taught to turn it off. As adults, we don't know how to name the emotions. And if you're struggling to name emotions yourself as a parent, no, that's normal and that's okay. And you can get an emotions wheel
Yes,
and
those are fun.
start to even start off with a couple of emotions and start to name them. And if you start to notice emotion, become curious with it, invite it in, and start to just understand it and welcome it. Because it's often, it's not that you're not feeling it, it's maybe you're not recognizing it because it's been pushed down. And do you know why this happens? It's a safety. It's a survival behavior, And there's many, many, many people out there that have experienced this. Um, so even like if you're feeling like you're having a hard time in recognizing your emotions and just going into rage, and then you have a hard time recognizing your emotions again, at home, when you're eating, start to notice a few tastes with each bite. Same as when you're drinking, and notice how it goes down your throat. Having a ice cube and holding it in your hand and just noticing the sensations that's happening, that you're feeling, the roughness of the ice, the cold in your on your skin, walking barefoot through water or through grass, and noticing how it feels in the body, going for a walk in nature, and noticing if you feel any sensations. Looking at a photo album, this is from Peter Levine. He's world famous for somatic experiencing. Going through a photo album, an old photo album of loved ones or special memories, and notice if you feel anything in the body. Because if we can start to notice our emotions, that's the first step to being able to process our anger. But sometimes we need to start there. And that's perfectly okay. That's normal. You're not alone. There are so many people out there that have experienced this, and that's due to trauma and pain that has no reflection on you at all. But it's just simple exercises and daily exercises to help you become more embodied, to be able to learn how to recognize your emotions and going through the emotions, having a list of emotions and just starting to notice and be able to learn how to name them yourself. And then you'll be able to start to teach your children.
Yeah, I think that that part that you mentioned about identifying the emotion, but that connection to the body is so important because like we can get lost in here and then being disconnected from everything in our body. So I love that. I love that looking even at a photo album and just teaching them how to keep that connection to their body is very important.
Or even if you're playing sports or whatever you're doing, whatever you love to do, do. And then notice what's happening in your body as you're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And do it slow and just take your time with it and try and do it every day and then even journal about it. Like it's all basic little steps. It's just little things every day that if you do them for say a year, look back, you're going to be in a significantly different place. But just taking one step at a time, it's baby steps. And only doing so if I tell you to look at a photo and you're like, I don't want to do that. That doesn't suit well with me. Well, then don't do it. Try, go for a walk barefoot or
Mm-hmm.
try the different exercises we're going to be showing you because do what feels good to you, what you're comfortable with, because it's easier to continue then too. How does our relationship to anger impact our children?
Well, either teaches them or doesn't teach them how to be with theirs. And also, well, it can come out sideways. So our own relationship to our anger, yeah, sets the tone for how they're going to learn how to be with theirs and also the impacts on them and their own nervous systems. If we don't have a good relationship to our own anger, again, more than likely it's going to come out reactive and projected onto the people we love,
Or repressed?
including children or repressed. Yes, exactly. Onto, yes, onto people we love. So either, end results could be that if your anger is coming out on the children sideways, you know, it's obviously going to have a very big impact on their nervous system of feeling safe. And whether they feel safe in the presence of other people's anger or, or their own, like they impact there, as well as like if it's suppressed, again, that could lead them to not knowing how to even stand up for themselves. So maybe harm doesn't come to them, or in ways like that. But I guess it's dependent on the environment. If they're in it consistently, like where they're, anger is like me, honestly, unfortunately, when I was a child, anger came out sideways all the time or all consistently every day. Like you just never knew when something would go from peaceful to not. So being in that hypervigilance, like in that survival, like always scanning for threat, I didn't even realize that my nervous system, like I'll just speak on the impacts of me. Like I ended up holding my breath, that when I was in my adulthood, I didn't even realize that I wasn't breathing properly, that I wasn't getting the oxygen, which then was creating more anxiety in my body. My diaphragms were, from not getting air. They were being squished from my holding too much oxygen in my lungs from holding my breath. So there's like health implications that can come from that. Also, just always being in a hypervigilant state where you're taking your trauma symptoms out into the world and you're creating your life based off of threat detection. It's a completely different way of living than when you're living from a place of love instead of fear. So yeah, there's many different impacts that can have.
So it's critical to feel safe
It's
for
critical.
your
It's critical in our
children.
development.
Yeah, to feel safe every day in their home. And when they don't, it can impact your child life for the rest of your life until they can start their own healing journey. But if you at home, parents, can start your own healing journey,
Mm-hmm.
the impact you have on your children, on your grandchildren and great grandchildren, right? And personally, that is why I'm a single mom, is because I did not want that for my child. And it was an abusive relationship, never physical. But some say it can be equally as painful. And I wanted my child to feel safe in her home every single day and to have a stable home because the impact it can have on a person. And it can be hard for a child to grow up in a home with one parent, but it's better to at least feel safe every single day, to feel loved and have a stable home environment. Um, it's not always easy, but it's worth it, right? Because, and then she is learning healthy dynamics, what healthy relationships look like. And that is why I'm a single mom. Um, because I want the best for my child.
Yeah, I'll just go back to like the point I was making in my response there was also like just looking back again is if we're constantly in that hypervigilant state as child too, like my threat detection as an adult, yeah, it was there, but I also found myself in situations that were not safe for me that didn't register as unsafe because I was so used to being in unsafe situations that almost
Because
felt
it becomes normal.
Yeah. And then you're wondering, why am I here? What the heck is going on? And like, it just doesn't match. The logic brain doesn't match with like, yeah.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
yeah, that's
Yes, and it's also
awesome.
not you, but
Yeah,
statistically,
anyone.
professionals would say if a girl is raised in an abusive home, they're more likely to get into
Mhm.
abusive
Mhm.
relationships. That's why it's so important to have that stable home life.
Yeah,
Um,
I swore I was never going to get into an abusive relationship ever. I was very determined, and it didn't matter how determined I was. Like that 5% of the conscious mind that is in that pattern and shape, like
and
that's
we
how I
live in like
that's how I created my life. It was based on just that.
we live in
That was
over 90% of our subconscious.
that's
So
correct. That's what I mean.
it's working in our subconscious to heal too. It's not just working in our
Mhm.
conscious. That doesn't work. It's working deep in our subconscious to be able to heal.
Yeah, that's where we have to go in order to actually heal. Yeah.
When we lose our temper as parents, what does a healthy rupture and repair process look like for our child?
I can only just be based off of my own experience. What my process of repair looked like was going back, taking full responsibility that on my emotions of not containing my own self, that my emotions were mine, that what was happening inside of me did not have to do with the child, that I'm sorry that I was not able to maintain my like being present with them, apologizing for any times that I might have made them feel unsafe or unheard, and then just recommitting to doing better, and then obviously not just dropping the ball but doing my work in order to ensure like it's not just words, right? Like because
And
you
that's
can
huge.
deliver words, but if you're not doing your actions, it's probably ain't going to line up or at least improve. Because also then we can promise and promise that we're going to do
And
better
that
next
means nothing.
time. Well, yeah, especially if you're not doing your own work. So that's where then there's just another set of trauma there that can come if we intend on doing better, but if again we're not doing our own inner work to actually be able to do better, then that can become an empty promise too, that which can cause harm as well, and lack faith in people, I guess, that may make promises to not harm us again.
And I like how you said it. Say, I'm sorry. Um, and owning up to it and doing the work, right? And it's not something that happens overnight. It takes time. But, and then two, teaching your children to say sorry.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
And
and that we are human, we make mistakes, and this is how
we are
we.
human, we make mistakes. Um, and sitting down and talking to each other, right?
Mm-hmm.
And taking the time when you're both calm. Because
Mm-hmm.
in the heat of it, it's too difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And
I actually
if, go ahead.
Nothing. I just what came to mind is that I do have a little writing on my wall, and I guess it just shows that over the year that I did have them, I do remember when any kind of little tension would come up, or someone made a mistake. One of my nephew would be like, "We make mistakes in this house, and we also love and we are loud." Like so, it was like, so if we can teach them this now,
Exactly. And
and
it's
empathy, and
and
compassion,
empathy.
and grace.
And it's okay to make mistakes, right? Because
Yeah.
we are simply human. We are messy. We are human.
Yeah.
This is real.
This is
And
what's real.
but it's also coming back to your kids and making the repair. Because if you can make the repair with your children and they see you trying, they see you owning up, they see you apologizing, then they're going to look at you and they're going to learn to do the same. But if
Mhm.
you don't own up to your mistakes and say, I didn't do anything wrong, I'm the parent, guess what they're going to do in their future relationships?
Mhm.
That's the behavior they're going to learn to not own up to their mistakes, to not say sorry, to not take accountability, and to not know how to make repair. Um, because when it comes down to it, we're all going to make mistakes. And we're all going to have our struggles. We're all human. And we all make mistakes, right? I make a lot of mistakes every single day. And I have a lot to learn. I still like no one's perfect, and we are going to all have our struggles. And no home life is 100% perfect or 100% healthy, right? Because no person is perfect. Um, so it's learning, and it's we're learning what's healthy and taking what's healthy from the home life we did have, and then changing and relearning what we have to relearn. And the only way we can do that is doing the internal work ourselves. Okay.
Being responsible for ourselves. Yeah.
Being responsible for ourselves. Because if we were not responsible for ourselves, who's going to take care of our kids? And our kids are our future. It's the
That's
world's, it's the world's future. If we can,
yeah,
as parents, this is our most important job.
it
If
is.
as parents, if we can form and help shape our kids to grow into having adults that are compassionate, empathetic, having integrity,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and we can all do it. Imagine how the world would change.
Ah,
And if we
yeah,
can start
absolutely.
our healing journeys and teach our kids to heal as they're growing up, because every single person needs healing, there's no person that has never had a struggle in their life. Our kids are going to have their struggles. It doesn't matter what type of home life they're in. We're all going to
Yep.
have our struggles. If we
Come
can
to
all learn to heal along the way, to teach our kids to learn to heal, we're going to also have our kids to grow to be very resilient. Because life,
hmm
when we struggle, it can build resilience. And if we continue to grow and have our kids grow along the way, what a world the difference would be.
hmm Sharing more love and wisdom than pain.
Exactly. And it will impact future generations, not just your children, your grandchildren, your great grandchildren, your great grandchildren. So it's worth doing the work. So our next week's interview will be with a somatic therapist who is also a voice teacher and teaching us to use our voice and to work around fear and of being heard. Thank you so much for joining. If anyone's interested in having a session, our information will be below. And if you have any questions, please reach out. And you can also comment in the box below.